Hello and welcome to the Alpha Anywhere demo and Q&A webcast. I'm Dave McCormick, VP of Products and Services here at Alpha Software, and I'm pleased to present Dion McCormick, no relation, who is our lead solutions engineer, as well as Sarah Mitchell, who's in charge of our documentation department here at Alpha. Today, Dion will be giving a quick demonstration of Alpha Anywhere, but he's also here to answer your questions. So you could type those questions into the questions box of the GoToWebinar control panel, and we will be monitored and we will answer them during the session. So let's get started. Hello, Dion, are you there?
Yes, I am. Hey, everybody. Thanks for joining us, and
Hey.
good to talk to you,
and
Dave.
welcome back. You were out last week, I understand, doing some training in Wisconsin. Is that right?
Yeah, I was up in the Great White North. Always fun when it's 4 degrees. Makes it a little interesting there.
Yeah, Madison, Wisconsin is, that's some tough stuff during the winter.
It is. I'm like, I'm glad I live close to the equator. You know, I'll deal with tornadoes and stuff like that instead of freezing to death just trying to warm up my car. That's the part too. My favorite thing about, I used to live in that area, but you get out, get your car going, everything else, it would be perfect temperature at the moment you arrive, wherever you're going. It didn't matter where you were going. Could have been crosstown, up the block, whatever. But the moment you pulled up, it was like, oh, it's perfectly toasty. And then,
then you have to get out. Yeah.
Exactly. So I'll tell you, the seat warmers are a incredible invention for that environment, because you kind of get, it's like turbo boost, get you from dying.
Jump started. Yep.
But yeah, no, really good. Lots of really cool stuff going on. And as always, we're here to answer your questions. So go to the Q&A section of your GoToWebinar control panel, put in your questions there. Our team will be watching that and using that to guide our session today. We always love your questions. And we'd also like to look at guides at alphasoftware.com. That's our website that you can send questions to ahead of time, that we will do our utmost best to try and handle those there. Now, today I've got a couple things I want to do. One is show a brand new cool feature. It's really an enhancement on existing feature set, but I'm just super tickled pink and excited about it. Secondly is to kind of talk a little bit more about how to drive expanding menus with database backends and other pieces there. So we're going to kind of cover that a little bit more. And then always your questions we're looking forward to your questions. So with that, Dave, I'm going to go ahead and just jump right into the demonstration, if that's okay with you.
Sounds good. Let's go.
Excellent. So I'm going to pop over into my development environment. And I'm going to go ahead, and for people who are new to the Alpha environment, this is our development environment, and I'm at the Web Projects Control panel. And the feature I'm going to talk about, and actually I should pop back here and show this really cool, is it involves the client-side UX builder, specifically a new feature that is included in the pre-release. It's in the latest pre-release just a couple days ago. And I just want to give you a heads up, because I think it's going to be one of those everybody's really going to enjoy having available. But it's in the UX builder, so we're doing a lot of work on improving the UX builder and getting it to allow you to develop things quickly and efficiently. But it also uses a little bit of cloud capability. So let's go ahead and go back in here. I'm in the Alpha development environment. I'm going to create a new UX here. So I'm going to click on New up here, click Web Component and UX. By the way, I could have selected it from here. There's 2 different ways to do it. And then I'm going to go ahead and create here. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to my controls, and I'm going to go to other controls. And there's a brand new other control called Drag and Drop area. This is really cool. So I'm going to click on that, and I'm going to add that to my UX control. Now what this is, and I'm sure you've come across this before, is when you need to do file uploads, Alpha has always had a very rich file upload capability built into it. But the method was click on a button, it would open up a file browser, you would select a file, add it, and then do an upload. And you could do multiple uploads, but it was really much a click, select, go from there. And that's awesome, works great, very flexible, but more and more we're seeing the ability to drag and drop files right onto the browser to upload it. And that's what this does. It basically is a pre-made component that is very similar to our file upload component, and it allows you to enhance and build that capability. So I'm going to add one other thing to do this. So I'm going to have my basic drag drop file upload. That's all I need. And literally, if I click on where it won't work here, but if I click on it, you'll see that it's going to render an area on my screen with a message to say file upload. Now I haven't set the configuration settings. I'm going to do that next, but it already does all the rendering and everything else for you. And this is customizable. So there's a lot of customization to make it look the way you want it to look. So let's go back in. I'm going to do a couple things. One is I want to add what's called a placeholder, because I'm going to send some messages out to the screen. So I already know I need that. So I'm going to include a placeholder here. I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to go back to my drag and drop upload, and you'll notice that we have two areas. We have drag and drop area properties and file upload properties. And we can also set the width and height, etc., of our environment. So the first thing I want to do is go ahead and show you the drag and drop area properties. So I'm going to go ahead and select this. So this is how you can customize what it looks like. So you notice when I showed you, it showed me a message here, and I can modify that message. It also had a specific style. So in this case, and I'll open it up, the style did a border that was solid, 1 pixel color, and then actually did a border radius to kind of give it that nice curved effect. And so you can modify this to make it look differently or kind of match your current style environment from there. You can also associate a class to do that from there. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and, oh, and by the way, you can also have click on drag and drop area to select files. So I'm going to go ahead and enable that capability, since I want to have both that, but also maybe someone wants to actually click on a button to make things happen. So that sets up sort of the look and feel of the drag and drop file upload. But now what we need to do is actually specify our file upload. Now, if you've done any file upload work, you're going to love this. So first thing I'm going to do here is go back to my web projects control panel, and I'm going to go into tools, storage connection strings, because what I'm going to actually do is do a file storage on S3, and I'm given both opportunities. I can do both local file storage on the server, or I can do it on the S3 environment. And I use S3 all the time. It's fast, efficient, low cost, and works great, and very, very fast. I mean, it's insanely fast because S3 has so much bandwidth. So the important thing is I've already set up my connection string, and there's some documentation online that shows you how to go through and set up your online S3 connection buckets and how to set all that up. It's really good documentation, courtesy of Sarah, who's put all that together. So I just wanted to make sure you understood when I'm going to go ahead and set things up. I've already set up my connection string, so I'm good to go on that. So I'm going to go back in here. First thing, I'm going to go ahead and save this as and drop to. Okay. So now I'm going to go, and I've saved my thing. I'm going to go here to the file upload properties and open that up. And you're going to see this looks almost identical to the action JavaScript. Actually, let me go ahead and show you that real quick, just so you'll see it. So I'm going to add a button on here, and I'm going to go ahead and double click on this button, and I'm going to add an action. And we've had an action up here called file upload Amazon S3 storage or alpha server. So this allows you to do a file upload. You click on a button, it goes through there. So you'll see this is how you managed it before. And this is no different in terms of how this works. So I don't need that button anymore, because I'm going to click on here and go to my, so it looks same. So I first can pick my target. And again, I can either use my Alpha Anywhere application server. There may be scenarios where you want to do that, or you can use Amazon S3. And depending on how you do it, it gives you different information about how to select that information. So S3, so now it's asking me, well, how do you want to connect to S3? So in my case, I can use a named one, or I can set up an explicit connection if I wanted to. But in this case, I've already got my storage connection string set up, so I'm going to select that. And I could have multiple connection strings. It's up to me. Now what I want to do is if I want to make any other adjustments, it's very similar. So for instance, I can actually modify the object name on Amazon S3. So what happens is it's going to try and use the file name on Amazon S3, but if I want to rename it, I can do that. I can also do some other things on after select on upload complete, etc. So it gives you a lot of flexibility to support sort of the process of uploading. It takes care of all the plumbing for you, but it gives you hooks to be able to show you things like to allow you to say, okay, on error, what should I do? If there's a problem uploading, what do I do? After I complete, should I do something else, like maybe navigate away or update a database or do many different things that you may want to do from there. Now, you'll notice there's another little feature which is really nice called display progress during file upload. And that's why I put this placeholder on there before. So I'm going to go in here and I'm going to enable that. And I'm going to allow the cancellation of the upload process. I've got some elements of how I want to display this information. I can do as bar or text. I'm going to leave it bar. But you'll notice here it has a key feature or parameter called placeholder for progress indicator. And that's going to show me placeholder number 1, which is what I put on my display earlier. So I just want to make sure the person allows me to, or the person gets an indicator that things are going on. Now, also what's cool is I have allowed file types, so I can go in here and put allowed file types. By the way, you can also do this at the project level. So there's ways of handling this both at the individual object level, but also at the project level to kind of, and you may want to protect it. You may not want people uploading BAT files or things like that. And that's another reason that Amazon S3 is nice because, there's not much they can do when they get on S3 from those standpoint. But I'm going to leave it open for right now. So I'm going to go and click OK. So there you go. I've got my drag and drop file upload component. I've set up my area properties and my upload properties. I added my placeholder because I wanted to show the progress, and we're able to demonstrate it. But before I demonstrate it, let's go on and look at Amazon S3. So bear with me for a moment here. I'm going to pause sharing, get my bucket up and running so you can see it. There it is. We'll go there. I'm just getting up. I've got a little great tool, which if you don't have it, it's a really nice tool. Let me go ahead and come on. There we go. Okay. There we go. Okay. So I've launched a tool. It's called the CloudBerry Explorer for Amazon S3, and it's free. And if you're going to do any S3 stuff, I highly recommend getting this because it really makes your life really easily. It basically is a file browser that actually can connect to S3. So I can have different connections and I can show my buckets and other things there, and I can see the folders within it. So I'm going to go ahead and delete these real quick. And these are actually deleting them up on Amazon S3. So these are not local on my local drive here. So as you can see, I've got a bucket here called GKT testing. In here, I've got some folders and stuff like that. And there's no actual files here. This is my target. So when I set up my S3 connection string on Alpha, I pointed it to this bucket so that I'm targeting where those files will go to this specific bucket. So now that I've done that, I can go back in here and I'm going to go ahead and launch this in a full preview. And this will launch my browser because I want to operate in the browser and show you how it works there. And this takes a moment just to show up. Okay. And there we go. So let me go ahead and open up my other browser here. So I'll go to my pictures. Okay. And I've got some pictures here. So this is my web browser. I've got my drag and drop area here, and it's in live preview. This is my file browser, which is my local. So I'm going to highlight those items here. I'm going to click and drag them, and you'll notice it says move, and I'm going to release and watch what happens below. See, it's actually giving me the presentation of the upload. And see how fast that is? These are obviously very small files, but those are progress indicators. So now I'm going to go back to here. I'm going to refresh my S3 bucket, and there they are, boxed, computer, and final inspection. So obviously there's a few enhancements I'd like to make. It's like after it's done, I may want to alert the person saying all file uploads are done, maybe take me to a different page. The sky's the limit. And actually the way you do that, if we go back into here, go into here, why don't I just go ahead and show you that? Oops, under here, I can go to the on upload complete, and I can just go, I'll just go alert. Ooh, let's actually do something more interesting. I'm going to go ahead and to make this really kind of cool looking, I'm going to create edit, add, upload complete. I'm going to use one of my favorite tools, which is the transient message. And I'm just going to say upload complete. And I'm going to put it in the upper left corner, top left, click OK. And I'm going to copy the JavaScript for this, and I'm going to paste here. So you'll notice just real quick, these are all JavaScript. So if I want to do something server-wise, I can still do that. I can call XBasic callbacks. I can do a bunch of different stuff, but it's expecting JavaScript. So I use the JavaScript action JavaScript builder to create it, but then I'm just using this little piece of JavaScript to trigger that from there. So now let's go ahead and click OK. And click OK. Oh, it's thinking for a moment. Pre-release takes a moment. There we go. Save it. And I'll go ahead and relaunch it. And this will just take a moment to launch into my browser. There it is. And go here, move it, see in the indicators, and watch. Oop, didn't spell it right, but this is my little message that tells the person, hey, everything's done, everything's good. And again, I would probably do something a little more fancy than that, maybe show the files that are uploaded, the status or something like that. The sky's the limit. But as you can see, this is very simple to implement. I mean, there's no JavaScript other than if you want to do some post stuff. It's all done through the parameters here. And the only things you got to remember is A, set up your connection string if you're going to use a S3 bucket. So I'm doing that. Notice there's the bucket name, etc. Secondly, if you're going to use the progress indicator, put a placeholder here. And then from there, you want to then explore then, well, how do I handle exceptions, things like that, and the other pieces there. If I want to rename stuff while they're up there, and it actually shows you, and this is an important thing to understand too. If you'll notice that Amazon has the concept of these folders here. So when I rename something, I can actually append it and put it into a folder. Now, the reality is Amazon is like a single layer. These folders are kind of fake things. Basically, it's an artificial representation, but it's still useful. So there's a lot of documentation on that. And you'll see when I am looking at the target object for S3, it actually tells you how to set up and set the folder name, etc. So you can actually categorize things into folders, which is often what you want to do. Like you have a client, and the client has different types of files you're storing for them, like invoices for this clients or work orders or POs or things like that. You have the ability to move things onto S3, put them into quote unquote folders within a single bucket, and it works really well. And it has the documentation here. There's great documentation online for that. And so that is the fabulous drag and drop file upload. Super excited, very nice feature that you can enhance the user experience. As you can see versus the old school, like actually, let me think here, wait, let me go back here. If I click on it, you'll notice that it brings up the traditional file browser, and I can still use that method to upload stuff here. But now I can even use a better, which people are very comfortable with, is a drag and drop metaphor to do all that with you. And especially who are kind of people who are using the system a long time, clicking here, then selecting them here and clicking open, you've just saved them 2 or 3 steps. And if they're doing 100 times a day, it really adds up. So I love this feature. Wanted to really show it to you. It's brand new. It's in the latest pre-release. You can download that, test it out. Highly recommend you don't use that in any production environments, but you're going to really enjoy using it. And as you can see, it doesn't take much to put it together. And in fact, if you've been doing file upload work before, you're going to be able to translate everything you've done there to this technology with very little time and effort. So pretty cool stuff. So with that, I'm going to open it up for questions regarding this specific feature. And then I do want to show a little bit more about expanding menu. We kind of covered that a couple weeks ago, and I wanted to spend a little more time on that if that was okay.
So a couple of questions. One is, do we have plans to support Google Cloud Storage as opposed to just S3? The answer is not on the roadmap as far as I know, but if you have a compelling case why you would like to use Google Storage or Google Cloud Storage, by all means, send us an email and we will see if we can include that into the roadmap. Another question, or actually just a comment, is someone said that they've been using Cloud Drive for Amazon, which allows you to link to a drive letter, which they think is actually kind of a cool feature. So that's sort of an alternative to CloudBerry. And the last one is, I don't see how this could work, but can this be used from mobile devices? My guess is no, because I don't know of anything that's similar to a drag and drop of a file on a mobile device. I don't think I've seen that.
Yeah, I mean,
I think that's a desktop.
I mean, with the iOS, you can kind of drag things around. I mean, possibly, but this is really targeted for desktop web. People who are using mouse and keyboard, that's really where this comes from. And
someone else said, will they be happy still with the ability to just to click and choose a file? I believe that is a possibility still in on mobile, right? I think when you end up choosing is basically an image. I don't know that it can do a file because that's a different kind of
animal. Yeah, I mean, what's going on is the tablets especially are moving heavily towards more full compute environments. And so even on iOS, they have the files where you can browse your files, etc. So, but you could launch this. I wonder, I'd have to test this out on an iPad and say, if I click there, would it open up the iPad's iOS environment? I'll give that a try and find out. That's a very interesting question. But drag and drop is really, again, this specific feature is
this has brought up all kinds of questions. I love this.
I know, it's good. Yeah.
Topic. So I actually have 3 more for you.
One is good. I mean, I'm glad we're provoking.
Can you store these files to a SQL database? And I think I know your answer is going to be yes, but you probably wouldn't want to, but I'm going to let you answer it.
Answer is absolutely, but it's on you to do so, meaning that you are going to upload those files to, let me go ahead and up here, you're going to be uploading it either to S3 or Alpha Anywhere. And if it's Alpha Anywhere, let me go ahead and select that. You can trigger an XBasic function, and in that XBasic function is called after each file is uploaded, and you can grab that file, put it into, turn it into binary data, and stick it in a blob in the database. So you'll have to write a little bit of code. Now, if you are using file upload in the grid, it already has that capability. It does that automatically, but you're not going to get drag and drop in the grid. This is really a UX component feature. But you can simulate that by saying, oh, great, I'm going to upload this. I call my XBasic function, and they actually even give you a prototype, let's say test, and it shows you how you can grab the file information, the source file name, etc., the local file name, and then you can turn that into a binary data element and then write a standards insert into the database with that binary data. So you translate that file from a file format into it. But that will really be adding that XBasic script. But again, you'll notice that when I do that, if I say, Alpha Anywhere, it's going to automatically trigger this XBasic function to call once each file has been uploaded. So you'll be able to handle it, and it takes care of like telling you, okay, run your script, go ahead and do what you want to do. And in that case, you can go ahead and put it into the database.
Excellent.
Yeah.
So this feature reminded me of Dropbox. I think Dropbox was probably one of the first times I saw the notion of dragging a file into a web browser onto a box and having it actually work. Now, it's common in a lot of other applications as well. The question someone asked is, what about Dropbox? Have we used Dropbox before as a storage solution?
Yes. And in fact, there's some level of support in it. If I go to so Dropbox uses an API infrastructure to be able to do the communication between it. And if I go to name providers here, and so this is into the web API world, we have name providers, we have new, we actually, let's go ahead and say DB. We've already built in for Dropbox how to, first you have to authenticate to Dropbox and save that information. People have done custom integrations with Dropbox. I've seen that before. And basically they just wrote API process. So they used like the regular file upload and then moved it into Dropbox at that point or vice versa. So the answer is, Yeah, it's supported, but it'll take a little bit of work to kind of put it together. Meaning, we've got some of the base capabilities, but the cool thing about Dropbox is it's really just a API call to send the information back and forth. It's just with S3, we use that heavily on the mobile devices for doing offline, or for like media storage, and it just was our primary tool, and so we've really integrated it heavily in there. I could see down the road more integrations with like Dropbox, but you can do it on your own if you'd like, and what we've done, which is kind of nice, is that you don't have to use the name providers. You could write your own, but now with name providers and named resources, we can actually make it easier for you to do that authentication step. Because if you're doing it like, if you already have a pre-made Dropbox folder, and it's always going to be the same for everybody, well, you can get that authenticated, get a key, and then just use that in your API calls. But if you want to have a situation where I am Joe Schmo, I've logged onto the system, I now want to link it to my Dropbox so I can use Dropbox with Alpha, then you kind of have to do something on the fly to do the permissions where Dropbox says, oh, do you get permissions to be able to do this stuff? So a little bit, we've got the basic sort of toolkit to be able to pull that off, and you can do that from there. So, but S3 is fully integrated. By the way, one other quick thing, we do support storage connection strings. We do support both Azure and SharePoint and Amazon S3, which is really cool. So you can actually turn SharePoint and turn it into basically a storage environment. Same thing with Amazon S3 and Azure. Amazon S3 is kind of built into the file upload stuff, but once you have the storage provider set up in the system, Alpha has what's called the storage class. It's basically a set of functions that allow you to interact with any storage endpoint. So you can write some XBasic script to actually move stuff back and forth with those environments, once it's on the Alpha server. So kind of up to you. I mean, again, S3 is kind of working, it's in, the cost is really low. But if you want to do a little extra work, we support Azure and SharePoint also as part of the ability to integrate with those third-party cloud platforms.
Excellent. We have the question that is always the inevitable question when we show off a new feature in the pre-release, and that is, when can I have it in the development environment? My estimate would be the later part of January would be my guess.
Yeah.
March later.
But yeah, I can say, I think we're going to get a big uptick on the use of this because it's nice. It's especially anybody who's doing file-centric applications, their users are just going to adore this because they're often like, they're usually uploading more than one file, and it's a very intuitive way for people to operate, and it just works. It was simple.
Yeah. All right. So someone asks, wait a minute, how is disk a storage provider?
Good.
It's probably a bad name.
Local disk
for it. Local disk, yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
There's basically a set of functions, and let me go ahead and go here. And we go into the fabulous. And no, I think that it's local storage, that's on that. And they're kind of, they're not super exposed, but, storage connections here. Okay. So let me go ahead and grab this and copy it and put it into the chat window so you know where this is. Okay, so this talks about storage connection strings. So it explains, setting up storage connection strings, putting the information, etc., and kind of a discussion about there. But if you scroll down, you'll see that we have a series of XBasic functions that work with storage. So the cool thing about these different ones, like let's look at this one, A5 storage save file. So once I've set up my storage connection string, I can say A5 save file, give it the storage connection string, and then I can give it the name of the file I'm grabbing and the file I'm uploading and some other elements here. And this will actually do all the communication, which in this case, Amazon and storage. So you can use the same set of functions with any storage connection strings, and those storage connection strings can be SharePoint, Azure, S3, and the other. So, and
nice.
and disk.
So conceivably you could write your scripts and have them point to local disk, and then later on say, you know what, I really wanted to move that to S3, and you don't have to do a lot of reprogramming. You just change your connection string. Is that the
That's exactly it.
case?
Yeah.
Okay, nice.
And connection strings can be defined on the fly. In fact, in here, I think you don't have to put in, I think you can actually put in the full connection string here. So we use the dot, so you'll notice what I'm using here is storage Amazon East. Well, that's just pointing, if I go back to my development environment, that's just pointing to this name right here. It says, oh, okay, I'm gonna look here, and then I'm gonna grab this and use this text here. But there's no reason why you can't take this text and put it directly in here. And so on the fly, you can literally set up those storage connection strings. It's very flexible. The named ones are just nice because you're probably using them over and over. And if you ever have to change it, you can go to one place and change it right here. And anywhere you reference this storage connection string is going to use that. But you could use that as a technique on the fly to change your storage connection string here. Now you'll see there's a series of them here. You can save a file. You can save binary data in storage. You could also get information about the storage. You could also retrieve it as a blob into a variable, which then could be inserted into a database. So there's, and then you get a list of items. So there's also underneath that, these are built on top of a underlying class. There's a whole bunch of other functions and capabilities. But the bottom line is that you can now genericize your interaction with web-based storage environments and not have to worry about writing APIs to call those things here. And this gives you an idea. So, files and storage, disk is local, Azure is on there, and there's some information about here to set on security, S3, etc. So really powerful stuff, really fun when you get into it.
Very cool. And now the last question is, could we use something like that? Let's say you wanted to, let me find the actual question here in this list, but it was basically along the lines of, if I wanted to use this in an application to share PDFs, could I do that? And could I display those, like, can I upload them and then have another user see the files that I've uploaded and
Absolutely.
then display one of them like in a page or in a panel or a.
Yep. So what will happen is this, and that's where cloud storage really starts to pay dividends. So I'm going to go back in here, and this is my cloud. So this is S3. So PDFs are going to work the same way with JPEG, but I'm going to click on this final inspection right here, and I'm going to look at the web URL. So you can see once it's up on the file storage, everything is given a URL, and it's really just sort of their Amazon's URL from there. So I'm going to go ahead and copy this to this clipboard. In fact, and then I'm going to go back over here, and I'm going to go in here, and I'm going to paste that here, and boom, there's that image. See how fast it rendered? It was like instantaneous. It's small, but Amazon's got these massive pipes that allow you to get access to it. Yeah. Now, let's say I want to show that in my device. So why don't I just, like, for giggles, I'll go in here. I'm going to go into panels, go ahead and do a panel card. And let me go ahead and surround this panel card with a panel layout. And I'm going to open, or I'm going to add another panel card. Okay. And I'm going to go ahead and add a header. And I could put a control bar in there, but I'm not. But I'm going to go ahead and go here. And I'm going to go to, I'm going to add a button, show file. I'm going to go in here, and I'll go, okay, I'm finding, it says here, open an A5W page, static HTML page, URL, or PDF document in a pop-up window or a div. So you'll notice I've looked for this particular action JavaScript. So I'm going to put in that page URL. Now, I could have read this out of a database. So, I'm hard coding this, but the answer is you don't have to do it. But I'm going to go ahead and say, I want to display this in a panel. And the panel I want to display it is panel card number 2. So essentially, panel card can act like an iframe from that standpoint. Okay. So I'm going to click save. We'll just go ahead and do a working preview because I can show it right away. So this is my left panel card. Here's my right panel card. There's my picture. So the process would be you upload. Now you know what that URL is. By the way, we'll give you that URL after it runs. You can look and see what that URL is from the JavaScript code that goes in there. And then you can insert that into a database, and then people can load this. And this works with a PDF. So let me go ahead and hold for a second real quick, if you don't mind. This is a really good question. And PDFs are critical for a lot of different things. So I'm going to go ahead and pause for a second. And let me do something real quick here. Let me go ahead and, there we go. Document, PDF. I'm just seeing if I have any PDFs here. Oh, I think I do. Let's see here. That's a great question. I love it. Download. Oh, I don't have a PDF sitting around here. I wanted to kind of show you how that worked real quick, but bear with me real quick. Oh, I got a good one. Okay. Yeah, let me go ahead and do this one. Okay, so I went ahead and I put a PDF here. And I'm going to go ahead and grab that, and I'm going to grab the web URL. Now I'm going to go back into here, and I'm just going to go into my show file. I'm going to open up here, and I'm going to say, now notice it says PDF document, so I'm going to enable this PDF document. And oh, it's file name. I don't know if I can use a URL. Okay, yeah, there's two ways if it's, you can do that. I'm just going to put in the page URL here, which is how we do from that standpoint. Let me make sure this works here. So give that a try. If you have a local PDF or in there, you can actually handle it in that way there too. So let's go ahead and do this. Maybe I need to live preview it. Bear with me. Might have to go back and check that. But you can display PDFs in, yeah, I might have to do that. Let's try it. Let's just, for giggles. Ooh, interesting. What happened?
Oh, your script disappeared. Maybe you closed it.
Yeah, that's weird. That's called being on a pre-release.
It is.
Oh, okay. I must have done it on this other one here. Let's just go ahead and do this.
Gotcha.
Excuses, McCormick. It's someone else's fault. Oh, access denied. Interesting. So I'd have to check on that. Wonder why. I think it's got, this is public. So try something a little differently.
If you paste that into a web browser, do you get it?
Yeah, that's a good, yeah, let me try that. That's a really good test. Ah, okay. I think it may have to do with the type of document I have. This is a PDF, so I have to set that on the bucket policy because it is a PDF here. So I'll follow up on and find out there. But the answer is once you have this PDF up there, you have a web URL. If this works, then it's going to show right in your browser. And then in my case, you can just use that within here and show it. And that's kind of nice thing is once you get comfortable with cloud-based storage, the neat thing about it is that everything's just a URL. And you can build that URL on the fly and do other fun stuff like that. So it must be a permissions thing on my, I'll have to check how that, so that PDF renders on there. But I've used it before. It's really handy because often you receive a lot of data in PDF or you convert it into PDF, and now it's almost a universal format.
So this person made a comment here that they have 300,000 PDFs that they actually work through in their application, and they'd be happy to send them to you.
Yeah, no.
Check your inbox.
Yeah, I'll give you my S3. You can upload it to S3, and they'll charge me. The nice thing about S3 is that the cost of it is essentially nothing. I mean, it's really inexpensive. I mean, unless you're doing like terabytes of data, but hey, 300,000 PDFs, that probably grows pretty quickly there. The other is that the neat thing about it is that instead of your web server getting hit, Amazon is doing the delivery of that document to your your system. So even when you do a download from S3, you can say, I want to do a direct download or an indirect. Direct means it's going to send the file to Alpha, and then Alpha is going to send it to you and download it. But you can set it up where you say, you know what, skip me, Amazon, you just directly download from the bucket right to the person's browser. And therefore, you can really reduce the amount of work going on your server. So if you can get all that file handling off your server onto S3, you're good to go. S3 also offers a couple other cool things that you should be aware of. You can set up policies so that every time a file is changed, and it archives it. So it essentially, if you like overwrote one of these files, it would write that. So there's all these cool things you can do on S3 to like create safe and trackable environments. The last thing I want to say that's really cool about Amazon S3 is there's a whole bunch of cool services out there that understand how to talk to S3. So a classic one that one of our clients used was they wanted to convert everything that came up in a JPEG into a PDF because, like this other person, they liked PDFs. It was kind of an interesting situation. Well, the cool thing you can do is you can use a third-party service that will monitor this bucket, and when it sees a new file, it will trigger that process. And that just happens on their dime. I mean, it doesn't happen on the Alpha server. You don't have to write scripts or anything else. It just, you know, when something shows up in this bucket, it gets triggered. So there's all these cool things like OCR, image conversion, you know, document conversion. You can even go down where you can do ML, but it's all triggered by the S3 bucket. So web storage is really neat because once you kind of make that move on there, and Alpha has a lot of support for it, then it opens up all these other cool features that you can go after in terms of having these other rote procedures being done by the cloud versus you having to worry about it in Alpha. Alpha now is more transactional in nature. So.
Very cool. So another question, and this has to do with, can S3 use encryption? Or what if you wanted to encrypt the files?
Great question. Oh man, I bet. Well, the question, if they encrypted there, how do you decrypt it?
Right.
I'd have to look into it.
Well, since you can pass it through the Alpha Anywhere server, you could have Alpha do the encryption for you, then push it up to S3, and then have it come back. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. But I would guarantee there's probably someone who, I mean, Amazon.
It might just be a switch. Yeah.
Well, I'm thinking like HIPAA requirements where I want, you know, let's say I have private information. I don't want it sitting in a bucket on S3 unencrypted. So my guess is that there are probably keys you can set and private keys or something like that and have it auto encrypted. The real tricky part is you have to be able to decrypt it. So what is that process? You know, Alpha is just going to bring the file down. So you may have to have that, you're right, move it into Alpha, decrypt it, do what you need to do it, and then send it back kind of scenario. Great point.
Cool. What else do they have? Let me see. Wow, I got a lot of questions on this one, Dion. Great topic.
Yeah, I'm very pleased. And I had a feeling when people saw this, they're like, yes.
This is what I want. Yeah.
Yes.
No more. Well, there might be some questions. Oh yeah, here's another one. Would the user be allowed? So you gave an example of them displaying it, but what about being able to download a particular link? Could they do that too?
Oh yeah, absolutely. So I'm going to add another button. It's going to be download. And so actually, let me go ahead and I want to show this as important concept. So before button, I'm going to go over here to JavaScript actions, and I'm going to create a new action. Actually, I'm going to do one thing first here. I'm going to add a text box. I'll go to this file. Just so I have it on there. This could be a grid, could be a hidden fill, sky's the limit. So I'm going to go here to JavaScript actions. I'm going to go file, download, and Alpha has a handy dandy file download capability. Oops, I hit the wrong one. Let me go add. Notice we have a file download and a file. Oh, that was the right one. There we go. Type. So here are the different types. So you can see there's many ways to do it. You could put in an absolute file name with a URL, and I could do that. I'm going to do Amazon S storage because I want to show you a little bit more of that. Client-side file name, you could create that, what you want it to be, what happened to this file there. Now, how to specify the Amazon credentials. So we need to tell it how to connect to Amazon. So in my case, I'm going to select my connection string I've already created, but I could also put explicit and set it up there. Now, method for specifying the object name to download. I'm now going to paste the URL of that PDF. I wonder if that's going to, you know what?
I'd use
Let
the
me
JPEG.
just, I'm just going to grab, yeah.
Since the JPEG works, yep.
If it may work for download versus display in the browser. It's kind of a weird thing. I'll have to find out what that did. Okay. Okay. So I'm just giving it the explicit location name of that to down. And I don't think I have to put the URL. I think I can just put the name of the image, the object there, because the object name is the file name, not the URL stuff. Now, very important, I've got two different download modes. Indirect, the file is downloaded from S3 to the server and then sent to the client. Or I could say, you know what, go direct where we'll do it. So I'm going to go ahead and say direct because I want them to do the work. And then this is where you can show, ID of the frame, etc. If you're going to download this and show it to the user right in the user interface from that standpoint, because if I click download direct, it's going to actually ask me to save it to my local system, but it also has the ability to display that right inside the interface. So let's go ahead and go here, and let's go ahead and do file download. Actually, let me do live preview. It likes things happening in the browser. Okay. Oh, I created the action, but I didn't create the button. I like to create my actions first here, and then when my brain's fully operational, I then actually add the button to download that. And I will go ahead and I can add an action and run my action, or I can just go here to text mode and say insert code to run the action and click there. Now, the reason I like to do it this way instead of embedding it in the button is that if I want to add other steps to this JavaScript action, I can go do it, and I don't have to worry about, well, where was that? What button was this on? Kind of scenario. So let's give this a try. Now we should see a new button here called File Download. Oh, maybe it didn't like the object name. That showed it. File download. I wonder if my permissions are off on my. I'm gonna do some real quick. So much for finishing on a good note there. You know what? Okay. Oh, this is a pre-release problem. I'll have to report that. Cannot retype too low. I've defined it eval.
Oh yeah, that's not you. Yep.
Yeah. So that is all you need to do when it works, right? But I'm glad we found it now versus you have to deal with it. But the file download, you just set these items here and off the road there. I wonder, let me go ahead and do indirect and see if that makes a difference. Just could be something to do with that kind of deal there. But that's how you do it. Now, the cool thing about file download, and I'll go in and test this in a moment, is the following, is that when I want to do my download, when I select the type here, you can see there's a whole bunch of different ways you can download it, because we have historically, control has a file name, etc. I'm using the Amazon S3 environment, but you could also even use an XBasic function. Like these are all for files that are stored on the alpha server itself. So there's a lot of flexibility on how you do that from there.
So actually that ties into one of the questions, which was, can you dynamically choose the file name and location for the PDF? And it looks like if you were to use that Ajax callback method, that would not be a problem.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. So this right here, you could even use local JavaScript, but you can do it in this. calls to compute the name of the file to download. So it's really nice in terms of what's cool about this AJAX callback, which is really neat too, is that you can actually, and it's hidden right here, but it says this function can also optionally create the file that you want to download. So it may not even exist. You may want to create a file and then download it. You can do it all in one step here, which is kind of nice from that standpoint here.
Oh, very neat.
Yeah.
Cool. All right. So one related question, just because you were opening the debugger, and it was the first question of this session, and that was, do you have any hints on using the Chrome debugger? Because I think it's pretty intimidating. Still is to me sometimes.
And my first hint on using the Chrome debugger is just go to Chrome, not to be flippant or anything.
Are you saying read the manual?
No.
Oh,
again,
watch the video.
There are these free things here, like crash course. And what this will do is not necessarily tell you about alpha in the Chrome debugger. It just will tell you, okay, how to open the debugger. Well, you click the 3 ellipses, go to more tools and go to developer tools. And that opens it up here. Okay. So now the question is, well, what are elements? What is console? What sources? And, it's going to be a little bit more JavaScript centric, meaning it's meant for people, because when you're in this here, you can actually do JavaScript. It's pretty cool. And I actually create a little piece of JavaScript and ran it right in the browser right there. So a lot of stuff you're going to see out there is oriented around how do I do my JavaScript debugging here and what it is. But they're still useful to kind of go through quickly because it tells you what these different things are. Now, a couple other things that are powerful about the Chrome debugger, just since we're on that topic, is that your first and foremost tool is called the console. So when I do anything, this is going to spit out any error codes, any problems, or things like that. So let me go ahead and do the file download here. And you'll notice, oh, it worked. Okay. So by the way, I noticed that this is working now because I moved the option where it went to alpha and then came down. So it's an issue of calling it directly from S3. So we've narrowed it down from there. But you will see this over here, any messages that are happening from the server. So if you have any errors, often what will happen is the system, like before, I was like, oh, it didn't work. Like when I did this, nothing happened. I was like, what the heck? So I just went here and went to 3 ellipsis, more tools, developer tools, went to console, and we can see any JavaScript errors that occurred. So it can tell me, is it me or is it them that made the problem? And you'll see even in here, which is really good, sometimes you'll see, like for instance, when I tried to download that syllabus PDF, it's giving me a status of 403, meaning it's forbidden. So you will have situations like you'll forget to set the permissions like on an embedded grid, and the grid just won't show up. If you open up here, you'll see, oh, it won't let you open that embedded grid because there. So this just gives you a lot of hints of what's going on it. Now down the road, you can use this for more fancy stuff. But another one that's really cool too is performance. I'm going to go ahead and turn on performance here. Okay, just takes a moment here. Come on. I don't want to. Okay, now I'm going to hit refresh. And you'll see in a moment, did it not do that over here? What it will do is actually show you the communication time between the browser and the server. So you can actually see, for instance, how long things are happening in this and that. So there's just a lot of really cool, I'm not sure why the profiling is not set up here. Yeah, so it's showing some stuff here. But the console is your vision into what's going on. If there's any JavaScript errors, anything that's throwing there. It also goes to for instance, if I go to elements, I can click here and actually go over a button, and it actually shows me the HTML right here and what's in there. And it shows you this so that you can kind of see what things are named and how they're oriented, etc. But your YouTube videos will kind of walk you through the basics of how to use this. And then we'll probably talk a little bit more about debugging stuff. Mainly, if you look here and you see JavaScript errors, like I saw wherever that error was, No, I must have closed it. Then that helps give you guidance so you're just not lost going, well, things are just not working. So that's a little bit of the intro to the Chrome debugger, and really, really handy. And remember, when you're in alpha here, and if I go to the live preview here and I'm using Chrome, I can actually open the Chrome debugger, so I don't have to actually publish this. So it actually opens the Chrome debugger as a separate window, so I can put this on a second monitor and then start interacting with it and everything I see here. So it's a handy little debug tool, even before you publish it up to your server and things like that.
Oh, that's fantastic. Also, I noticed that Sarah has posted a link to a Chrome debugger video in the chat window if you want to go get one of those. And let's see what else. That kind of looks like it for questions. Wow, we kind of wrapped that up.
Yeah, no, I mean, we opened a Pandora's box.
We did, and we closed it again somehow. I don't know how you're not supposed to be able to do that. Yeah.
But it's those horror films where like the lid is bouncing up and forth, like the thing is trying to get out again.
Yeah. Just the one quick question is, can you specify paths to these different resources? And I believe the answer is, like, for example, you had the sort of those pseudo folders that they create in S3.
Right.
Can you, like, for example, say not just top level, but can I specify that I want it whatever's in folder 3? Yeah, like that.
Yeah. So really, what happens is it looks like a folder scenario, but it's basically how things are stored on there. So I'm going to click right here, and I'm going to show the web URL for there. So if you'll notice, it's not actually, it's just the path to this thing. They're all stored at the same level inside the bucket. So therefore you can say, okay, I just want to see everything in folder 2, and this is the path to show everything in this folder here. So it's just a URL structure that you'll work with.
Very cool. And
look at this, I can expire this URL at a specific date. So the access to this file, I mean, there's so many cool things you can do. Is that this is how you give this link, and what it will do is it will expire. This link will work to this file till December 25th at 12:56. And then if I click on this link the next time, it won't actually get to the file. So there's so many cool things you can do with S3, to manage these kind of strange corner cases that you may come across. Like I have an offer for a house, and I want it to expire 5 days from now and not be able to download ever from then, or something like that. Or, I just don't want these files hanging out there forever.
Right. No, that's a great point. Great. Well, hey, Dion, thanks a lot. It looks like we've run out of questions. So thanks everyone who participated today.
Yes,
great session.
Great questions. Yes.
If you do have further questions, of course, you can send them to guides, GUIDES, at alphasoftware.com. So we're going to be out for the next 2 weeks, it being Christmas and New Year's. So we're not going to see you guys for a little while, but we will be checking emails. So by all means, send in those emails. Thanks again, and have a great end of the year. Take care and goodbye.